Have you ever stopped to think about how your computer finds that one specific photo you took 5 years ago, buried somewhere among tens of thousands of other files? It feels like magic, right? Well, it's not. It's an incredibly smart hidden system that's organizing your entire digital life. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this unsung hero, the file system.
To really get it, I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture a library where every single book is just tossed into a giant pile in the middle of the room. No shelves, no sections, no card catalog. Just total, absolute chaos. How would you ever find anything? It'd be impossible, right?
Believe it or not, that chaotic pile of books is basically what your computer's hard drive or SSD looks like without a file system. It's just a vast, jumbled up sea of ones and zeros. Raw data with no meaning and no order.
But of course, there's a hero to this story. In our chaotic library, a master librarian steps in to bring order. And for your computer, that librarian is the operating system. It takes that digital mess and turns it into the beautifully organized world of files and folders that we use every day. So what does this master librarian actually do? Well, it boils down to 4 core jobs. First, it organizes all the books, your files and folders. Second, it decides who gets to access them, which we call permissions. Third, it keeps a perfect record of every empty spot on the shelves, or free space. And finally, it makes sure that any file you ask for can be found in a blink of an eye.
All right, so how does it pull all this off? Let's start with the most important tool any librarian has, the Grand Catalog System. This is how it knows where every single thing is. Now, the official term for this is a hierarchical directory system, which sounds way more complicated than it is. Really, just think of it like a big family tree for all your files. You have a main folder, and inside that you can have more folders, and inside those, even more folders, all branching out from one single starting point. This tree-like structure means every single file gets its own unique address, or what we call a path. Finding a file is just like following directions through the library. You start at the main entrance, which is the root directory. You head down the users aisle, find the Ask section, and boom, right there is your document. Simple as that.
So, why is this so important? Well, this system is the reason you and I can both have a file called report.doc on the very same computer without causing a problem. My report is in my folder, and your report is in your folder. It's a brilliantly simple solution that lets us group related files together and keeps everything neat and tidy.
Okay, so we've got the catalog down. We know how things are organized logically. But what about the physical storage? How does our librarian actually place the books on the shelves?
See, the space on your storage drive isn't just one continuous empty line. It's broken up into millions of tiny, equal-sized chunks called blocks. You can think of them like standardized slots on a bookshelf. Every file you save, big or small, gets broken up and stored in one or more of these slots.
Now, this creates a pretty big challenge, doesn't it? If your drive has millions, maybe even billions of these little slots, how in the world does the operating system keep track of every single one that's available?
Well, our librarian has 2 clever strategies. One is called a linked list. This is kind of like a scavenger hunt. Each empty slot contains a little note that points to the location of the next empty slot. The other way is with a bitmap. This is like having a giant master map of the entire library, with every single slot marked as either free or in use. They both get the job done, but each has its own pros and cons when it comes to speed and efficiency.
All right, on to another critical job for any good librarian, managing the restricted section. Because not every book should be available to every person, and not every file on your computer should be accessible to every user or program.
A great librarian is also a pretty good security guard. The operating system uses a system called permissions to control exactly who can do what with a file. This is absolutely fundamental for keeping your personal data safe and protecting the system from unwanted changes. It usually comes down to 3 basic permissions. Read lets you open the file and see what's inside. Write lets you actually change the contents. And execute is a special one. It means this file isn't a document to be read, but a program or a tool that you have permission to run.
So, we've got the catalog, we have the shelf management, and we've got the security rules. But the real magic, the true genius of the file system, is how it hides all this complexity from you to create a totally seamless experience.
You know, one of the classic textbooks on operating systems says it perfectly. The goal is for the entire system, no matter how complicated it is, to be transparent,
All that hard work happening behind the scenes should be completely invisible to you, the user.
And that's exactly what happens. You never see the librarian frantically checking the catalog or running around trying to find an empty shelf. You just see your desktop, you double-click an icon, and your file opens instantly. The master librarian works tirelessly in the background so that for you, it just works.
But I want to leave you with one final thought. All these principles were designed for a single computer sitting on your desk. Today, so much of our data, our digital libraries, live in the cloud, spread across servers all over the globe. So the new question is, who's the librarian now? And what new set of rules does that library play by? Something to think about.